What's up guys, MikeCoco back here, bringing you guys a new video on the new update for Legion of Heroes. I know I've been away for a very long time. I've been really busy with assignments, and I actually just finished my assignment yesterday. Actually, I don't know when this video is going to come out, so July 31st. Whatever. So, I do want to apologize for not being here, but I've been really busy, and classes just, it's just killing me. But regardless of that, we're going to talk about the update. And this update is actually very big. It's huge, and I actually want to split it up into two parts. I'm going to focus one part of the video on more or less combat changes, and the rest of the video, or the second part of the video, on the other changes, the miscellaneous or the general gameplay changes. So the first thing I want to talk about is the changes to the hero's power. This is probably the most drastic change in this update. And the thing with this update is that it changed the overall power of the heroes. Not by increasing attack as you would expect, but by increasing HP and defense. What Nexon did was they buffed up our heroes' HP and defense, but at the same time they also buffed up the enemy's attack. Enemies as in monsters only. PvP is slightly different. So in terms of PvE only, the enemy's attack has been increased, but our own HP and defense has also increased. Now, this may seem like a decent change on the surface of things, obviously, if we have increased HP and defense, they should deal more damage to us, and so it keeps it fairly balanced. It sounds like a good idea until you realize that they didn't actually buff attack. And what this means is, for heroes that rely on shields, or rely on their own attack to do something, cough cough Michael, cough cough any of the other shielders like Sword Main, Gun Main, Sarissa, Ella, all of their shields are now extremely, I don't want to use the term weak because it's an incorrect term. Their shield power has stayed the same, but because the enemy's attack has increased, it no longer protects you that well. I see a lot of people just in the general chat going, shields have been nerfed. That's not entirely true. The shields themselves haven't actually been changed at all. It's just that the enemies deal more damage so that they can break your shields much more easily. For example, if you take a look at Michael's shield, I don't think it's changed too much from before. It was always at around 2 million, 3 million, depending on what kind of spear you use. And previously, when Michael had around 400k HP, that shield literally saved himself like God knows how many, like 10 times over, almost. So obviously, at that time, shields were extremely powerful. If you use Sword Main in floor 6, you pretty much would never die if you had a strong sword. But now you look at this shield, and then you look at your hero's HP. It's literally like a quarter, not even a quarter. So that just tells you how shields have. I don't want to use the word nerfed because they haven't actually been nerfed. It's just that they're no longer that strong compared to the enhanced damage from the enemies. Now, this overall change, I believe, has made the direction of the gameplay a little bit slower because you can't shield as well as before, which means that you will take more damage, and things that were easy before, for example floor 6 where I could just simply auto and breeze through it, are no longer that simple because the shield can't actually break. For example, I can just change the sword, but Sword Main's shield is now like same thing. It's around 3 million something, so it's not too powerful if you compare it to their HP. So overall, the general direction has kind of made the gameplay slower, probably because Nexon thinks that we're clearing these things way too quickly, and so they decided to do this. I'm not exactly sure why, but it does cause us to change some of our setups and some of our formations, which I'll talk about a little bit later in Explore. But first off, I want to go through like the game modes. Now, because of this change, Bounty Hunt actually has been easier. Now, it doesn't actually correlate to what I just mentioned earlier. For some reason, I don't know why, Bounty Hunt is much easier. Previously, I could probably only solo like Myth 1 and Myth 2, but now I can go up to 3 and 4 pretty much on solo, which is, I'd say it's a pretty drastic increase. Previously, I was just autoing Legendary because Mythic just took way too long, but now I can pretty much auto 1 and 2 and actually manual 3 and 4. So Bounty Hunt has gotten a lot easier, and I believe this change has been applied for all players, so everyone should see an increase in their Bounty Hunt levels. which is weird because, like I mentioned before, battles should get slower and slightly harder. I'm not sure what's going on with BH, but you know, we'll just leave it that way. Phase Rift, the overall difficulty has not changed too much. The bosses still have the same HP in terms of Phase Rift, but in all the other modes. So despite the fact that they deal more damage, their overall HP hasn't changed. So if you can kill them quickly, you can win pretty much. So again, I think they pushed us into a meta where damage comes first. You know, there isn't a good point in trying to tank stuff because it's just not going to work anymore. So they're trying to push us for damage, which is interesting because I feel like that's what they've been doing the whole time. So I don't know why they would perform this specific update, but who knows. So Phase Rift hasn't changed too much. It's still fairly simple, fairly easy, very easy to auto. Mythic Raid, I haven't tried Mythic Raid yet, but because of the changes, like the increased damage, I suspect that Mythic Raid will be slightly harder. I'm not a really good person to ask about Mythic Raid because I don't really focus too much on Mythic Raid, but I will provide my comments in the description once I try it out. I did try out Explorer, and Explorer, I would say, has gotten slightly more difficult, and I would actually say I would take out the slightly, just more difficult in general. The reason why is because, again, the general setup for floor 6 was to use Sword Main or Ella and then just shield, protect your 5 heroes, and you'd breeze through it. Now that the shields can be broken much more easily, that strategy still works. It's just that you have to pay much more attention to make sure that heroes don't actually die. Previously, I was, just going by with S2 rank 1 on some heroes like Zhao and what's her name? Party Ione. You can't do that anymore. You have to give them at least Season 2 rank 2 equipment. Level 10 is fine, but if you give them Season 2 rank 1, they're gonna die because the damage that the bosses deal is just much higher than before. So I have been able to replicate the same strategy. Not much has changed. It's just that you have to pay a little bit more attention. And I suspect that as we increase the shield power again, so as we buff up the power of our swords or our weapons, that will effectively buff up our shields, things will be closer to how it was before. Floor 7 is, I would actually say, has gotten much harder because personally for me, I've been using gun main in floor 7 because gun main shields all ranged heroes, so I'd have 4 ranged heroes and then Michael. Now gun main's shield was never strong to begin with. It was like 700,000, 800,000 shield, and that's with like a radiant gun. And now that the hero's HP is literally like 11 million, 800,000 is literally like not even 1/10. So as you can tell, it probably hasn't gone too well for me. Something I probably will try out Sword Main again in floor 7, just because, I actually don't understand why Nexon did this change, because if you look at the shield power, it's literally abysmal compared to the HP. I'm not sure why they did this. Like, for example, Sarissa, how much does she shield? She shields 1 million damage, but her own HP... Okay, this gear's not good. If we compare it to good gear, 1 million out of a hero that has 12 million HP, that's like... What's the point of having a shield? It's literally useless. There's no point. This update definitely did ruin shields again, so I personally don't like it. But I guess that's just the way it'll be. So in terms of PvE, I believe that's it. I covered most of the things. In PvP, again, there have been changes to Arena, and the way Arena works right now is very weird. The patch notes mention that they changed HP and defense, and this is obviously visible because you no longer see Gabriel's one-shotting Michaels even with the shield up, which I guess is a good thing because those Gabriels always annoyed me. But it's hard to say what heroes excel in Arena now because HP and defense overall has been increased despite the fact that it just says changes. I personally think that the HP and defense has been increased because it takes much longer to kill. A lot of the arena battles tend to go to turns 4 and 5 now. Previously it was like turn 3 and 4, but now they're starting to get drawn out. So with that, I actually think that the PvP based heroes will excel more in in arena. Magic damage is also still very strong, as you can see. Where is it? From the stats tab. Your defense, your physical defense has increased, but your magic defense is still the same. So magic is still very strong in arena. Physical attacks, I personally think, have gotten a lot weaker. And generally, if you're not a PvP hero, you're not going to be dealing too much damage in arena. This is just like my quick thoughts. I haven't focused a lot on arena, like analyzed specifically, you know, what kind of damage is optimal in terms of which heroes to use. But I think the general trend is that the PvP heroes tend to do a lot more damage compared to their non-PvP counterparts, except for magic damage, and that's the only case. So that's it for arena. They also added a speed modifier, so pretty much you can click the speed and you can increase how quickly the battle will go. Probably because, like I mentioned before, the rounds have been increased in arena. They tend to go to like turns 4 and 5, and you just don't want to watch the same things happen over and over again. The other interesting thing is that they provide a hidden attack, an HP buff or debuff, depending on what I guess category of player you're fighting against. So if you see, like, okay, on this page you don't see anything, but generally if you see like a page and it says minus 30% or something, that means that you're gonna get a debuff because you're fighting someone that's much weaker than you, so you're gonna receive a debuff. Now for some reason, I don't know why, I think my team's only like 50 million, whatever. But if you fight a team that's very strong, you get a buff. So I don't know why I'm not getting a buff against this guy. But I don't know. Nexon's just weird. So that's it for arena. And the other change was that at master level you cannot see attack power, and I also believe you cannot see formation until you actually fight, which is, I mean, it doesn't make a big difference. You can just set the speed to 0.5, and then when you enter the battle you can analyze the formation for quite a while. I would say like 2 to 3 seconds at least, before your heroes actually start fighting. But yeah, I don't know why they decided to do that. And the other change was, again, this is in terms of just combat, they changed the display. They said that they kind of made the numbers easier to read. So in the sense that instead of displaying the whole 100,000 XXX, they would just display 100 million. So that's what they said, but for some reason the numbers don't add up. If you go into like Explore or something, or anywhere where you hit really hard, if you hit like a 200 million, it will actually say 2 million. So I don't know what's going on there. And if you see something like, and you also see stuff like 9000K, which is really awkward to say because 9000K is just 9000 times 1000. Wait, no, wait, what did it say again? 9000K, and that sounds exactly the same as 9 million. So like I don't know why they didn't just write 9 million. And when it says 9000K, you actually deal, I think, yeah, I think you actually deal 90 million when it says 9000K. So you pretty much add a 0 to every number they give you. For some reason, like the numbers are just messed up. I'm not sure if it's because of it's like they took it directly from the Korean version, because I know like China in particular, they have like a weird scheme for numbers. They have like stuff like 9,000, 1,000. So like, I don't know. The numbers are just weird, so don't put too much thought into it. Don't look at that. Just look at the number counter at the top for like Explore or Mythic Raid or whatever. So I think I've gotten through most of the combat changes. No, wait. I still haven't gone through. I did not go through the changes to the Mythic skills. So previously, the old Mythic skills that increased the weapon activation chance. I think the one hero that I have is only Zhao who has that. So previous Mythic skill that increases weapon activation chance is now that activation chance, but also increases crit damage. So it's a nice buff. The heroes that provided self reduction for a Mythic skill, for example Calm, it's now a row reduction. This might actually see use again. or like the specific myth skill might see use again because of the amount of damage that we take from the enemies and the fact that shields can no longer hold up as well. This may be useful. It says up to a 60% reduction may be applied, so I'm assuming that they don't stack, in the sense that you cannot stack 60% to reduce to 0.6 times damage and then stack another 60%, which will reduce it to 0.36 times damage. But I don't have any of these heroes yet, so it'll take us some time to test that out. And they also changed specific mythic skills for mythic heroes, mythic season mythic heroes, like true mythic heroes. Let's see. They also removed what's it called? The hero review system. They literally put it in like 2 or 3 months ago, and then now it's gone. So, wait, hero info's gone too, or am I just lagging? Oh wait, I think I'm just lagging. I don't have Saint Ione, so I can't show you guys. But generally, okay. So Saint Ione, her skill was changed. I'm just gonna switch servers. I can't even switch. Oh, are you kidding me? Okay, so I'm gonna have to talk about this a little bit later, but Saint Ione's skill was changed from, instead of a static 100k HP heal, it's now like a 30% of your maximum HP. So yeah, with that out of the way, I think we're done for most of the changes. I do want to talk about the new dragon weapon. So the dragon weapon is unlocked after completing a specific subquest, and the quest that you have to complete, I believe, is number 127, this one. Once you complete episode 187, you'll unlock a side story, and that side story will generate, I think, 2 or 3 more side stories. Once you finish the last one, you'll be given the dragon chest. And the dragon chest, as you can tell, is... oh, where is it? What the hell? It is... only weapons, and it is the same tier as your legendary and mythic. However, despite that, the base stats and the overall passive stats are higher. So for example, this one has 6,667 as the top range of the sword, and your radiant only goes up to 6,000 or 6,344. So it's a small increase, but again, at level 30, it adds up to a 30% increase in terms of passive stats, and your general stats or your base stats don't change. So these dragon weapons rather are, they're pretty good. I would definitely say go and finish a subquest to complete it and get this weapon, one of these weapons. As for which weapon to actually choose, I've seen like 2 groups of people talking about this. So the first group of people are talking about like, obviously because they have higher base stats and higher passive stats, you should just choose a weapon that suits your strongest hero, which of course is not a terrible option, because obviously you're benefiting your strongest hero. But if you guys, well, I personally, in my guides and in my gameplay style, I guess, I personally prefer utility over raw damage, because you can always boost raw damage. Like, there isn't like a hard cap on raw damage. But utility, that is what is special. You know, utility, I personally think that utility will take you much farther than pure damage. Because if you combine utility and strategy, you can get really far in this game. So with that being said, I think that you should pick a weapon that allows you to, I guess, exploit its active effect, specifically one of its legend effects. Now, someone mentioned this in chat. I think his name was Cloud. They mentioned that the active effects actually resemble the mythic dragon skills, and if you look at them, they actually do. And I thought this was quite interesting, because it kind of ties in nice with the storyline. But like you can see here, this one is like 3x3 and then increases self attack. So I think that's what's her name? It's that cannon person. I forgot her name because no one uses her. This one's Magic Dot. This one's Sarah, so that's Magic Dot, and then this one's Remy. So yeah, their active effects resemble their counterpart dragon skill. So with the active effect in mind, I would recommend picking either the sword or the spear, because as of now there are only 3 heroes that actually that you can actually proc active weapons on. Prince Arthur, Zhao, and Michael. And Zhao, like, is not a great candidate in my opinion, because if you're gonna go Zhao, you might as well go with Michael. And I personally think that Zhao with a Fury Spear is essentially like a single target Fury Thief. Um, so that's why I use him. And he also boosts the active on your other spear users, meaning that you can save like what 3,000, 4,000 hearts from going from level 8 active to level 10 because it boosts by 20%. And the other option is Prince Arthur, who uses a sword. So the sword is not a extremely spectacular weapon. It increases critical hit by 15% for one turn, but considering that a lot of heroes already buff themselves, and Prince Arthur specifically buffs himself, you're only going to be applying that critical hit increase to your other heroes in that same row. So it's not a particularly great choice. I personally would go with the spear, simply because, as I mentioned before, shields have gotten, and again, it's the wrong term, but I'm just going to use it anyway. Shields have gotten weaker, so with the ability to generate another shield and boost your own attack, blah blah blah, increases enmity. This part is something that's very interesting, because if you guys already have Michael, you know that he does draw aggro towards himself. However, if you used him in combination with Swordmane, you'll notice that Swordmane actually draws more aggro than Michael, because Swordmane's skill specifically indicates increases enmity, and Michael's doesn't. So I'm wondering if the fact that this sword or this spear that specifies increases enmity will actually draw aggro away from Swordmane, because one of the problems with running Swordmane and Michael, or just Swordmane in general instead of Ella, is that he draws aggro, which means that a lot of times he'll get silenced or he'll get stunned or whatever. But if Michael gets stunned, that's fine. I don't really care, because I'll have cleansers around him, or he will, work some magic. But I don't want my shielder to get silenced or stunned. So I'm wondering if this enmity increase will actually help. But in terms of dragon weapons, I would say probably the spear or the sword if you're going with active or utility. And if you just want pure damage, just pick whatever one is suitable for your strongest hero. Probably like, I don't know. These are all pretty much the same. So I think that's it for the dragon weapons. One thing I did forget to mention is you might have noticed that there's a little EX tag here. All equipment has been upgraded, so you can now reinforce past rank SS. So as you can see here, this is rank SS. You can reinforce past that using Dimensional Catalyst. You get these from Phase Rift. You get 200 at the highest tier, and you get times 5 from floor drops, tower floor. So it will take quite a bit of time, dropping at times 5 each time, and not being an extremely common drop. They do definitely want us to level these things very slowly. But yeah, that's just something interesting. I'm not sure how much increase over SS it has. This is 6,344. This one is 5,000. So it's like 1,000 increase, which is I would say is a sizable increase. Definitely worth going for EX. And is that it for the equipment changes? I guess I could also talk about the season changes. So if you look here, they no longer have seasons. They're either Mythic, Legendary, or Normal. And the entire concept of rank 1 to rank 5 has been removed. The lowest tier hero is Normal, which is our old rank 6. And some of the non-legendary heroes have been promoted to legendary status. For example, actually I'm not sure if I can find a good example. Celine is not. I don't know if I can find a good example. Okay, I don't think I actually have any of them. Okay, forget what I said. But basically, a lot of the previous non-legendary heroes have been transformed into legendary, and they get their appropriate mythic skills. None of them are spectacular. Like, if you weren't using them before, I don't think you'll be using any of them now. So they're not, too great. The thing with the removal of seasons is that they buffed a lot of the older quote-unquote season heroes stats. So for example, Drake is like season 3. He has like 52,000 strength now. I know Khalid before, he had, I think, like 40,000 strength or somewhere around there, but now he has like 50,000, which is much more comparable. Obviously, the higher season still has the most. For example, 75,000 for season 9. But it does work out the slight discrepancies in seasons. I think like Tree End has also gotten much stronger. I think, yeah, Tree End was like 40,000 before. He's now 50,000. Lasita is 72,000. Not surprising. So I think that is pretty much it for the changes in stats. I don't think I'm missing anything else. I've covered most of the important things. And actually, no, wait. There's one last thing I did not mention. Initiative. The update actually changed the initiative. It reset everyone's initiative to 0. And they now allow you to set the initiative based on game mode, which is something we've been asking for like 10 billion trillion years. But it certainly makes Explore that much easier because I don't have to focus about changing my initiative between Explore and Tower and autoing Bounty Hunt. So that is definitely, it's a nice quality of life change. So other than that, I think that's it for changes to equipment and just combat in general. I'll have the other changes in part 2 of the video. This one's already really long. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Peace.